Hello Internet. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be trying to do a devlog, I think is what people call them. I'm working on a game called End of the World. I'm doing it for the up and coming Sealed with a Kiss jam, and I'm going to be talking about um, the major plot beats. So if you're worried about spoilers, I mean, no one knows that this game exists, so who cares? But obviously, I'm going to be talking about the plot points. Um, yeah, I'm kind of just making this up. I don't know what people do. So what I did was I downloaded a couple of the art program that I use to draw records like a speed paint type thing. So I downloaded a couple of those speed paint things, and then I planned ahead, very uncharacteristically, a little bit, try to, and I recorded myself implementing a bunch of pictures into a scene. And I'm going to show you how I do it. So I'm going to show you some of the stuff I was drawing. I'm going to talk through my brainstorming process just really quick. And then I'm going to show you the scene that I was drawing and how I drew it and how I planned it out, and then how I imported it into the engine and whatever. So I don't know how I came up. I think I just jokingly started calling it the end of the world because I knew I wanted it to be this like sad apocalyptic story. So I wanted to do something about people hiding in these like bunkers underneath the ground, and then like AI roaming robots crawling over the surface of the earth. And I want it to be this like side view. I'm trying to do a more traditional visual novel, which I've never really done before. I think I've done things that were very close to visual novels or somewhere between the visual novel, walking simulator line. I think I toe that line really closely, but I'm trying to do a more classic visual novel. So this is me just basically doing a there's no wrong answers, sketch out what I want it to look like at first glance. And then I started designing kind of the title screen, because that kind of really helps me get like an overall, it's almost like a mood board, an overall feeling for the whole project. You know, what kind of color schemes am I going for? What do I want it to look like? What kind of vibes do I want it to look like? What kind of lines am I trying to go for? You know, how saturated do I want the colors to be? Do I want it to be pixel art, hand-drawn style, etc., etc.? So this is me just slowly making a lot of big choices about what kind of style I want this game to have. So I decided these are my two characters. Is it terrible that I don't know their names off the top of my head? I know the girl on the right, her name is Rose, and I think the girl on the left's name is Anne. It could be Annie. You know what? It's right here. Let me look. Elle, not Annie. I'm bad at names. This is probably the reason why. You know, hot take. I don't give a lot of my characters names. This is why. I'm bad at names. I'm always going to be bad at names. It's never going to change. So we have Elle and Rose. And this is kind of a cool insight into my childhood. I had a little, what do they call them? OCs. I had a little character that I drew often that was similar to the design of Rose, where she had like long straight black hair with little curls at the bottom. I did end up not sticking with this, so this is an early design of her character. I do really like that. It's not super easy to draw, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So I have since decided that her hair is shorter a little bit and doesn't have the little curls at the bottom. But that kind of design is a little homage to a character that I used to draw when I was a teenager, and it was like a sad angel character who had big wings, and I had a lot of fun drawing her wings, and she had a very specific style to her hair. So, End of the World, it's going to be sad. It's about these two girls that are trying to, they decide, I don't know how much of the plot actually I want to say. They're trying to save the world in a self-sacrificing manner, and story is about their journey to the place where they are delivering kind of the final blow to the AI forces. So here's, I was going to show this picture, the one of me drawing the bunker, but actually I don't think, because I'm not going to show you in this one it's not done yet, so I'm not going to show you how I implement it into the engine. So instead we're going to skip ahead to me drawing the subway tunnels. So for the first chunk of the game, they're in the bunker and they're basically kind of saying goodbye to the people that they're hiding out with, and we're getting like context about the world and what's happening. And then for the second act, second part, whatever, they're traveling through like a subway tunnel, and I wanted this to be my opportunity to give a lot of environmental background storytelling. So I don't want to front load the player with a fuck ton of exposition. I don't want to be like, and this is how the world ended. Dun dun. I'm trying to put as much of it into the environment as I can for like context clues. So my thinking was that as they're traveling down the subway tunnel, stuff on the subway tunnel walls as they're talking to each other are giving the player context clues for like what's happened. So I wanted there to be like signs on the walls that are hinting at like a rebellion and tips on how to fight the androids, that then shift into go into hiding type warnings, basically hint at like we're losing the war. And then a shift into something that I saw that I really like in The Walking Dead, random aside, but like those like big walls of like, have you seen this person kind of thing. So I wanted to do a couple walls of like, now we're clearly just refugees in our own world kind of thing. We've lost and now we're just trying to find people, whoever's alive still. And then I wanted to shift into like walls of just like messy, like wild technology, like wires are slowly like growing almost like organic material through the world, spreading into every corner, including the subway tunnels, as we get closer, as the girls walk closer to like the center hub of what's happened, to get to the enemy. So this is me, that was my sketch phase, and then I'm filling out the bunker with lots of different layers, making it dark. So I should probably talk about why I'm making these choices. So I wanted to scroll, but it's kind of an illusion because I want to draw as few images as possible because I'm only one person. So what I've done is I'm trying to create something that can loop really nicely, and for it to loop really nicely it has to match up exactly. So either I can fuss with making sure that this line matches up exactly with this line and that these all match up exactly and look really nice as it loops, or I can obfuscate it with shadow that by being solid black will loop nicely every time no matter what. So by kind of creating this triangle shape that leads you towards the center of the thing, I create pockets of visibility and I hide my seams, and it's a lot easier to hide the seams. So I'm able to reuse this image and have it scroll past with the next one, the same image scrolling in with a really seamless transition. Initially I was going to have them visible and walking, but I'm trying to do it basically all in images. I'm trying to use almost no sprites. I'm only going to use a sprite for the enemies, or for the AI monsters that are going to be visible every once in a while. So what I decided to do is I'm going to be having character bust images pop up on either side as they're talking, like as they're walking. So, a bust image, girl number 1, girl number 2, as they talk. Gosh, I really hope my screen captures my mouse. It does, right? It does. I'm crazy. Okay. So what I didn't have this idea at first, but what I eventually decided to do was, instead of having the characters visible walking, I decided to have it just cast their shadow on the wall. And then an aspect of the plot that's happening that I haven't really talked about, because I'm trying not to say too many spoilers, is that one of the characters is glowing softly, and the glow is getting slightly more intense as the plot is moving along for, reasons. So there's a cute little pink glow down at the bottom, and then I was trying to space out because I wanted there to be words that go across on the gosh, this thing just like doesn't like to go away, does it? I was trying to space out the words that are popping up on the back walls to make sure that they're readable. So I was really, really worried about the cool context words that I'm putting so much effort into that are going to be telling so much of the story were going to be like too difficult to see behind all of the visual clutter that I was putting in to like make the texture feel realistic. So I tried to add in some like wires. I tried to add in like poles and different stuff for the tracks to be attached to. I looked up a couple of reference photos for the inside of a subway tunnel, and that's how I kind of got the ideas for these. Like there was like a little seam line going down the middle of it that I thought was interesting, with like water damage coming off of it. So little by little, I tried really hard to plan ahead and think of the different layers, and then I kind of stack them up, and then I try and picture how I'm going to actually implement them into the engine. So then now, oof, I hope this works the way I hope it does. No, the file is corrupt. What did I do? I don't want to show the whole thing because I feel like I took a really long time. Can I just speed this up? I think I can. Okay, I think this is going twice as fast. This is what I was gonna do initially. I was gonna have it on twice the speed. So I imported all of the images. This is a little weird watching me do this quickly. I import all of the images, and I've gotten better at trying to label my images more intelligently. So I have them labeled based off of like where the I'm trying to keep it more organized. So I in the past have shot myself in the foot a little bit by naming them what I wanted to name them and not naming them based off of like subject. So if there's like a major cutscene, you want to give that cutscene a nickname, and then just keep everything in their different. Make it easy for yourself to find stuff is all I'm saying. You know, name your stuff however you want to name it, but just make it easy for yourself. So I was trying to like remember that you have so many images to work with, so it's easy to want to like keep it scrunched into for me anyway. I feel like I always end up wanting to make it like the first 20 images, and you can space it out. You have plenty of space, and it's hard to change it later, and I still ended up not spacing it out enough, and I had to go back and change it later, so boo on me. But I was trying really hard to think of, I have to show the images and then I have to have the images moving. So how do I set up an auto run event that shows everything, and then how do I connect that to a parallel event that then has the images moving at a consistent and smooth nature? So that requires you to keep track of which images are which number, where they're at, and how quickly they're moving. And then you also have to keep track of which move pictures are waiting for completion and which ones are moving all at the same time. So what I ended up doing was I'm using the same image and I'm just using it multiple times. So I'm showing picture for the same image, but placing it under two different pictures. I don't know if that makes sense. So I have one main image there moving off to the left, and then I show another image and it's off to the right at the same time, and it moves in to replace it right at the same time. So it looks like a loop, even though it's two different images moving to the left at the same time, to create a seamless transition, looking like it's just an endless hallway. That is a very overcomplicated way to explain an ultimately very simple concept that only sounds complicated because it takes so many steps to complete it. Like, I'm just looping an image. It's really not the end of the world, and there's no easy way to do that in RPG Maker. So I have to be really fiddly with it. I'm probably being too fiddly with it. There's probably an easier way. I'm not very good at this engine, and I have a tendency to brute force a lot of things and then just test it. So that's me making sure it works, and then I go, obviously it's too fast. And I was on the fence about it because I knew it would be difficult to make it loop with the shadows. So my initial thinking was to leave the shadows still and just having the wall change, because I was thinking, you know, this is from the perspective of the girls, so like maybe the shadows won't look like it's moving. Like, I just wasn't sure. So I had it at first where the wall was moving and the shadows were staying the same, and then I do end up changing it later, but that's how I have it initially. So here I start laying down the rest of the layers. I'm trying to get I'm making up a walking cycle using images here. So I'm trying to think of like how quickly that timing is, and I don't want them to be stuttery, so I didn't want it to be like image with like clear transitions between them, I wanted them to flow nicely. So what I did was I show an image at full opacity, and then I start to fade out that image, and then at that same time, so I don't wait for completion for that 15 frames, I show the next image. So as the next image is showing, the previous image is fading out at the same time. So that creates hopefully a kind of nice blended feel, so that they're all kind of like almost fading into one another as the whole event loops. And then you can see here I did the classic thing, me going, why isn't it working? Why don't I see him? Guess what I didn't do? Didn't click parallel. Classic blunder. Had it set to action. And then I'm like, well, that's moving a little fast. So I realized it kind of looked like when you're doing an animation, when you're doing a 3-frame animation in RPG Maker, the way that like the walking sprites work is that if you look at it's how do I explain this? When you're looking at the character sprite sheet, the default character sprite sheet for RPG Maker, there's 3 walking frames, and there's a center one, which is the number 1, and then the left and the right one. And it goes, so if you count from left to right, just top left corner to the right, 1, 2, 3, you start on 2. And it goes 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. So it goes one way and then back to center, and then the other way and back to center. So I recreated that here by putting in another loop of what was essentially the center frame at the bottom, so that it looks like they're going down and then they're going back up. Again, an obnoxiously overcomplicated way to explain what's ultimately a very simple premise. I can't. That is the way that you have to think about it when you're breaking it down in RPG Maker. And I wish that it weren't that complicated, because I am just doing the 3-frame walking cycle, the same as what the default walking cycle is for the RPG Maker sprites. And I'm just recreating that with images. So I had to make sure that I hit that center frame a second time, if that makes sense. This is me just adding in the pink glow, nothing super complicated. I have it kind of fade up and then fade back down, and then gonna test it, make sure it all works. And it's working pretty nicely. So I do decide that I don't like that the shadows aren't moving with the, this is me being like, okay, how do I do this? Oh, this is me being like, this is going to be a pain in the butt, but let's do it. I do decide that I don't like that the shadows over the subway tunnels aren't moving with the walls. So this is me recreating what I've already done with the 2 images sliding over and replacing each other at the same time. So I'm just recreating the second one. How I thought about this, I broke it down, was that each image had itself and its buddy that backs it up, right? So that's how I thought of it in my head. So I had, I'm starting with 3 and 4, and so then I went 15, 16, and 20, 21 to think of the image and then its buddy backing it up. I did have to end up changing the numbers later because these are images that sit on top of everything. So I had plenty of space in the, how many pictures can you use? I think like 99. You have so much space. Use more of your space. I was being silly putting these so low in the number, because I know that later on I'm going to be putting in a whole bunch of different stuff on the walls. So I need a lot of space. I need a lot of numbers. I need a lot of free pictures that I'm not fucking with, because these are going to be looping and showing the entire time that you're on this scene. So I can't ever reuse ththese images, or these image numbers, if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm pulling up an image and I'm telling the engine, find the image using this number. So I can't reuse that number for a different image later on. Here I realized that one of them are a little bit off because there's a little bit of a visual gap there. So I go through it and I end up looking at the numbers over here, trying to find where it's off. And what I end up discovering is that there's one right down here where, there, I notice it, where the image is just a little down. So it was drifting down the entire time it was moving, and that made it look weird. So this was a good exercise. All of this really was just a good exercise in me trying to figure out a way to plan ahead. And then it's so hard with pictures in RPG Maker because you almost have to do it in one sitting, because you have to pick, for me anyway, I have to picture it all in my head and then like remember what all the different numbers mean. So there's so many different moving pieces, and when it's just represented in a list like that, an intimidating list, like what the fuck are those? It's just a list. What does that mean? And it's hard to like remember what everything means, what it's doing, and why. And the timing is so finicky. So you have to like do it while it's like holding water in your hands. You know, you got to get it done quickly, because it's gonna, even though you're holding that water as tightly as you can, it's gonna trickle out if you sit there for too long. Gosh, I don't even know what oh wait, this is me changing the numbers. So I changed the numbers way up high. That's not super interesting, so we'll skip ahead. I needed to give myself a lot more space. I still left myself space because I don't know if I'm going to be putting anything over the top of this. I might even have to change it later, but I don't think I'm going to go through like 40 images. I hope not. I hope not. And now this is me testing out my theory on how to get I'm hoping that I can get the words on the screen to look nice. Here I realized something kind of interesting. This is kind of just a good example of like, make sure you think about what you're doing in terms of the computer is very literal. So I wanted to set it so that the image starts on the far left and then goes the image starts on the far right and then goes all the way to the far left. And I have my hallway loop on 600 frames. So I thought, oh, okay, it just has to go all the way across in 600 frames. But if you think about it, I have my hallway loop to moving halfway across the screen in 600 frames. So it's 1200 frames for it to do the whole thing. And you can't do over 999 frames for how long you wait for a move image command. I feel like I'm speaking gibberish. Sometimes I hear myself talking and I'm like, what am I saying? Does that make sense? I don't know. It's 11 o'clock at night. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea. So what I did instead was I broke it up into 2 different stages, even though I'm not replacing it with another image. That's why I did it with the other one in 2 different stages with that loop of moving the infinite wall. But with the words, I need the timing to match up. So I have it moved to the center and then I have it moved to the far left instead of having it move from the far right all the way to the far left without a second command. Just because, so I could hit the timing of 1200 frames instead of being maxed out at 900 frames, and the words magically moving at a different pace than the wall. I hope that makes sense. This is me testing out what it looks like if I speed it up. Fun fact, I didn't know this actually. You could only speed it up while the auto run event was happening. Now that it was just the parallel events happening, it didn't let me speed up the parallel events, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I had an auto run event happening. I can't click on it, but it's this one right here. That was having the words show up. So I was using that one to time out like when the different things on the wall are going to show up, and also as dialogue happens. My hope is that I'm able to time the cutscene with them just walking. So the cutscene of them walking and the wall moving past is happening constantly. And then as they talk and plot moves forward, things show up on the wall, seemingly at random, but in reality, very intentionally placed there as the plot is moving forward. So that way, if you're like not looking at the screen and you don't have it paused, you don't accidentally miss a bunch of important stuff scrolling by. So everything should be scrolling by that's important for you to see while you're interacting with the screen, and you're able to make sure you have a chance to read it and you can actually see it go by. So this is what I'm working on. I don't know about this devlog. This feels somehow a little silly, but I think a part of that is just me feeling insecure about talking about like myself and my own project. If you have the means to pause and zoom in, this is the entire plot. Heads up. It's going to be a sad, self-sacrificey sapphic story, you know, in the tradition of me, make it gay, make it sad. So I'm trying to do kind of like a walk to the end kind of thing. I really love those kind of stories of like, they know at the beginning of the story that they're going to die at the end, And the whole thing is about that, like processing that, kind of like going through the stages of grief of it, you know, before you know, or before it actually happens, which is, I think, just a very interesting aspect of humanity, that some people have the capacity and the grace to do something to help people and make that choice, even though they know that it's going to end with them dying. So that's what I'm going into. I'm looking forward to it. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm feeling a little intimidated at how much drawing I have to do. Feeling a little insecure about how much drawing I have to do. Trying to fight the demons of, I don't think I'm that good of an artist. I think I have a good sense of drama, but I don't think, I don't know, right? It's always hard to fight the demons of just comparing yourself constantly. If you ask me any day of the week, I would say I don't think I'm that good. And there's no way to say that without sounding like you're just fishing for compliments. And I'm not. I'm not fishing for compliments. I think it's just a reality of making stuff, is that a part of what pushes you to become a better artist, a better creator, a better person, is that doubt. So maybe that doubt is just a necessary evil of the creative process that you have to learn how to muscle through. And every time you muscle through it, you get a little bit stronger for it. So I'm happy that I'm here making stories. I'm happy that I'm here sharing about making stories. Out of everything, I don't know if I'm going to post this. Like, this feels more vulnerable than when I cried playing Brittle's game. So, and whenever I record these YouTube videos, I always just imagine that I'm talking to my friends in my Discord. So if I ever talk kind of like I'm making really niche references, considering just absolute strangers on YouTube might watch this, that's why. That makes me more comfortable doing this, is if I just imagine that I'm talking to my Discord friends. So, wish me luck. This is my, what is this, promo? Come see my game. The jam ends in like 20 something days, so hopefully in 20 something days I should have a complete game. That'll be pretty cool. But thank you for, if you're still listening to this, thank you for being here. Hello, internet. Goodbye, internet. Bye.